Yo, YouTube, man. We back at it again, man. Oh shit, I'm not gonna cap. I was testing my shit out. My shit was like tweaking for the past 2 days, no cap. But we back at it again. We got how good was Prime OBJ. Yo, Prime OBJ was that nigga, Brody. If you don't know who that was, bro, if you was not watching football when Odell was fucking with the Giants, oh my god, I'm not gonna lie, I was young as fuck. But once Odell got that that famous one-handed catch, that's what like caught my eye to football. This nigga brought me like more into football, if that makes sense, you know. But enough chatting. Let's get straight into this shit.
Odell Beckham Jr. defined the word superstar in the NFL. His highlight reel plays and magnetic personality skyrocketed him to becoming one of the most famous players in NFL history. In his prime, he wasn't just on track to be one of the greatest wide receivers ever. He changed the way the position was played. But to really understand Beckham's legacy, we have to go back to the Bayou. Because before he ever made it to the NFL, Beckham was already a Louisiana legend. Born in New Orleans, OBJ attended Isidore Newman High School, where he was a three-sport athlete. But the gridiron was where he thrived. He played 4 different positions. But it was clear after 19 touchdown catches as a senior that wide receiver was where he was best. And despite having offers from many top programs, everyone knew where OBJ was going. He was going where his dad played running back, where his mom was a track star, and where his godfather Shaq dominated on the hardwood.
This nigga had a Shaq as his fucking godfather. And then he had his 2 athletic parents. Yeah, this nigga he had it all, man. That nigga OBJ was lucky.
He was going to LSU. OBJ spent 3 years in Baton Rouge, where he got better every season, culminating in a 1,152-yard, 8-touchdown junior campaign. It was the kind of season NFL scouts couldn't ignore. His elite hands and playmaking ability after the catch was a nightmare for opposing defenses. He was a threat to take it the distance every play. So it was no surprise that Beckham didn't have to wait long to hear his name called on draft night, as the New York Giants selected him 12th overall.
With the 12th pick in the 2014 NFL Draft, the New York Giants select Odell Beckham.
That being said, Beckham's NFL career didn't exactly start the way he wanted. Giants fans had to wait to see their new star rookie, with OBJ missing the first 4 games of the 2014 season due to injury. Expectations were already high for Beckham, but his delayed debut only increased the pressure to perform. Looking back, it only makes what he did that first year even more impressive. In just 12 games, Beckham caught 91 passes for 1,305 receiving yards.
Ugh, look at the fucking stats. Nigga, that's his first season back as a rookie.
And 12 touchdowns. That's a landmark season for any receiver, much less a rookie who missed 4 games. To no surprise, OBJ was named the NFL's Offensive Rookie of the Year. And despite all the love he received, he may have even deserved more praise. If Beckham played all 16 games and produced at the same rate, he would have ended with 1,740 receiving yards and 16 touchdowns. That's not just
crazy.
The elite. Those are history-making numbers. And while OBJ's numbers alone were insane, the way he was getting them is what launched him into superstar status. He made highlight plays every week. But there was one catch that shook the landscape of the league forever. In a Week 11 Monday night matchup with the Dallas Cowboys, Beckham pulled down what can only be described as one of the greatest catches of all time. At the start of the second quarter, Beckham defied the laws of physics with a 57-yard touchdown grab. Despite Cowboys corner Brandon Carr,
Yo, when they threw that flag, I thought it was an Odell, bro. I thought they were gonna cancel the touchdown. I was about to be fucking heated, bro. I was like, there's no way they're gonna fuck this nigga's moment up like that. But you know, thank God they didn't. It was on fucking 39.
desperately pulling his jersey, Beckham somehow twisted his body while reaching for the ball with one hand. The freeze frame tells the story. Beckham is reaching so far backwards that it looks like he's going to break his back. To get to that point and then hold on into the end zone still doesn't make sense.
That one is right there with anything I've ever seen, so that was pretty impressive.
NBC analyst Chris Collinsworth referred to the move as
"You have to be kidding me. That is impossible."
And the NFL quickly crowned it as the catch of the year, before later naming it as the 16th greatest play in NFL history. Next thing you know, OBJ is a viral superstar.
When I woke up and for the next following week, I just watched my entire life just change.
As if he already wasn't marketable enough, this catch made him one of the faces of the league as just a rookie. Kids were now dyeing their hair blonde, and instead of mossing one another, all anyone wanted to do was make one-handed catches.
You know, I had the parents coming up to me like, man, all my son's trying to do is...
Yo, I remember I used to throw fucking I used to make it like, I used to have 2 socks, make him to a ball, throw it into my bed, and then like one hand catch that bit and like fall into my shit. I don't know what the fuck I was thinking, bro.
Catch with one hand now, and I remember having to tell kids, keep practicing with 2 hands first.
Even Beckham described it as a life-changing moment.
Changed my life forever. It is a moment that happened, and it was a good moment for me.
At least for that moment, the bright lights of the Big Apple suited Beckham perfectly. However, a new challenge awaited as he headed into his second season. You see, in 2015, OBJ had to back up the hype. Playing at a place like New York comes with more attention and expectation. All eyes were on Beckham, and that's exactly how he wanted it, because he was ready to put on a show. Over the course of his second season, OBJ went for 100 receiving yards or more in 8 different games, averaging 15.1 yards per catch. He bettered his rookie season yards total with a whopping 1,450 receiving yards. He also bested his touchdown mark from the previous season, scoring 13 times in 10 different games. OBJ wasn't a player who preyed on just a few teams per year. He was terrorizing almost every defense he faced. Beckham didn't even play the full season. But in this case, it was an injury that made him miss time. He was always a passionate player, and that spilled over on the field sometimes, for better or worse. During the Giants' Week 15 loss to the Carolina Panthers, Josh Norman managed to get in his head, and Beckham was flagged for personal fouls 3 separate times before being suspended 1 game by the NFL. Besides his temperament, the other rising issue is that the Giants just flat out stunk. New York had gone 6-10 in back-to-back seasons, despite having one of the most electrifying players in the game. Something had to change, which is why New York fired 2-time Super Bowl winning coach Tom Coughlin and tabbed Ben McAdoo as his replacement. And initially in 2016, it seemed like the perfect move. Beckham played his first full season that year, starting all 16 games and putting up another top-tier campaign. Beckham set a career best in receptions with 101 catches, going for 1,367 receiving yards and 10 touchdowns in the process. And the stats don't do justice for just how good OBJ was.
I'm a B, and I bumbled my way into your car.
Fucking stupid ass, man. Fuck it up by shit for real, bro. Bro, it's the most lamest shit ever, man. And they can't even skip the fuck ass shit, bro. Yo, my bad for this, y'all boys. Y'all gotta bear with me for a little bit. Alright, we back though.
That season, like in Week 6 against the Ravens when he had 222 yards and 2 touchdowns, including a game-winning slant he took to the house. Or in Week 14 against the division-leading Cowboys, where he took another slant over 60 yards for the win. His home run hitter ability was on full display that season. It seemed like every game it was just a matter of time before he broke off another massive play. And even better, the Giants were winning. New York went 11-5, reaching the playoffs for the first time since 2011. This is what NFL fans everywhere were waiting for: Odell Beckham Jr. in the playoffs. Under the brightest lights is when he always played his best, so what better place to shine than the postseason? But leading up to their wild-card matchup with the Packers, Beckham and the Giants were in the news for a completely different reason. OBJ and the rest of the Giants receiving corps flew down to Miami for New Year's Eve a week prior to their postseason game, and while there, they went on a boat trip, which produced an infamous photo. NFL fans and media hounded the Giants, primarily Beckham, since he was the face of the team, saying they weren't focused and they shouldn't be partying the week of a playoff game, which created a huge distraction for the team. Beating the Packers in the NFC wildcard round was the only way to fix the problem, but that didn't happen. Beckham's first ever playoff game was a complete dud. OBJ dropped several passes despite being targeted 11 times. By the final whistle, Green Bay won 38-13, and New York's star receiver had just 4 catches for 28 yards. Naturally, the roasting only intensified.
Nah, let's hand them another one. Nah, I don't know why it took me so long to read that shit though.
Even Joe Buck spoke on the issue during the broadcast. Fair or not, when you do that, you're going to put a spotlight and a target right on your back and say, "Look at me." Now, when the team needs you, he's got to step up. Beckham was a wreck. While he's best known for his confidence on the field, the loss clearly got to him as he was seen crying after the game.
It's unfortunate. That's just the way this world is, and there's just no way you could connect something that happened 7 days ago to this game.
Years later, OBJ would call the photo and embarrassing performance the biggest regret of his career.
And my biggest regret about all that is that that incident allowed that to happen. Not that I went and had a good time on New Year's, it's that I put myself in a situation where this story could be used to create a distraction from what's really going on.
Beckham had reached a new low in his career, and unfortunately for him, the rest of the year would only pile on the misery. OBJ needed to rebound from the embarrassment of the Packers' loss. His name generated clicks, so seemingly every fan and media member had something to say about him. Not to mention, he was entering a contract year. Millions of dollars and the respect of the NFL was on the line. Beckham started the season injured, disrupting his campaign right away. After missing Week 1, OBJ seemed to be back at his best in Week 3, after racking up 79 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Eagles. But after another 97 yards and a score against the Chargers in Week 5, disaster hit. Beckham went down in obvious pain.
Bro, I feel like this nigga's getting injured so fucking, like, so easy. It's crazy, bro. These, like, I don't know, it's just crazy.
Reaching for his left ankle. After an update from the Giants' team doctors, it turned out he had suffered an ankle fracture. Beckham's season was over. In what may have been the most important season of his career, he was only able to make 4 appearances. Beckham spent the offseason recovering, but rather than let him play on the 5th-year option of his contract, the Giants decided it was best to pay him. New York handed him a 5-year, $95 million contract, which at the time was the biggest wide receiver contract in the history of the league. Beckham had received his big contract, but now he had even more to prove. After the disaster that was the past year, OBJ was entering 2018 with even more pressure than ever. And for the majority of the year, he was as impressive as ever. Through the first 12 games, Beckham had caught 77 passes for 1,052 yards and 6 touchdowns. But once again, injury issues continued to get in his way. In Week 13, he suffered a quad injury and initially played through it. That ended up being a critical mistake, as he then had to miss the final 4 games of the year. It was clear that Beckham was still a dominant player in his prime, but the frequent injuries were taking away his best years and creating issues within the Giants organization. So, when the opportunity arrived, New York made one of the most head-scratching moves of the decade. On March 13, 2019, the Giants shocked the NFL world by trading OBJ to the Cleveland Browns.
Still, there was a widespread disbelief that the Giants would ultimately do it.
It was definitely a shock. I think I've come to grips with everything and processed everything, but I'm very thankful for the opportunity.
It's almost unheard of to trade a player less than a year after handing him a record-breaking contract. But Cleveland was willing to give up a haul for the receiver. The Browns traded their starting safety, Jabril Peppers, their starting guard, Kevin Zeitler, as well as their 1st and 3rd round picks in that year's draft. After the move, one thing was certain. Beckham was not happy. In fact, OBJ later described the move as the Giants trying to kill his career.
I feel like the Giants sent me off. I've said it before, sent me off to Cleveland to die. You know, I could have went to the 49ers. I could have went to the Patriots. I could have went to teams that had, you know, a chance to be great, and that's not what their desire was.
But in Cleveland, Beckham had new motivation. Make the Giants regret that trade. After 7 catches and 71 yards in Week 1, OBJ exploded in Week 2 with 6 catches for 161 yards and a TD. If Browns fans needed proof that Beckham could break a game wide open, the 23-3 win over the Jets provided plenty of evidence. While the Browns were the definition of mediocre, Beckham ended the year with 74 catches for 1,035 yards and 4 touchdowns. While not his best year by any metric, OBJ had crossed the 1,000-yard mark for the 5th time in 6 seasons. Cleveland may not have been his ideal landing spot, but year 1 was encouraging. He had new momentum going into 2020 and was still in his athletic prime. Through 4 games of that season, Beckham was balling. He had totaled 236 yards and scored 3 touchdowns, but it was too good to last. In the first quarter of the Browns' Week 7 clash with the Bengals, Beckham went down with an injury once again. Cleveland later announced that OBJ had suffered an ACL tear and would miss the remainder of the season. Beckham had come back from injuries before, but ACL tears can forever damage a player's mobility. There was no certainty that Beckham would be the same player coming out the other side of physical rehab. And while his injury was a major problem, the bigger issue was the deteriorating relationship between Beckham and the Browns. Beckham did recover and was able to hit the field by Week 3 of the 2021 season, but the tension was clear. It got so bad that Beckham's father publicly criticized Cleveland and starting QB Baker Mayfield for how they were utilizing his son's talents. And after a massive uproar by Browns fans on social media, the Browns told Beckham to stay away from practice for a couple of days. Shortly after, Cleveland released Beckham. There was no chance of a trade due to the trade deadline having already passed, so the only way to end the relationship was to cut him. For the first time in his career, OBJ was a free agent. That's where the Los Angeles Rams come in. The Rams had built a Super Bowl caliber roster, but needed another weapon for QB Matt Stafford. Like a mercenary, OBJ was signed to an incentive-heavy contract with the goal of winning a championship. In 7 regular season appearances, Beckham caught 27 passes for 305 yards and 5.
Yo, this year of the fucking NFL, not like this year, but that year when the Rams won the football shit, the Super Bowl, that shit was crazy. That was a crazy year. The football was good that year.
5 touchdowns. He wasn't producing at his previously elite rate, but he was scoring, and the Rams were winning. After Los Angeles finished with a 12-5 record, Beckham was back in the playoffs for just the second time in his career. This time, he made it count. Over the Rams' 4 playoff games, Beckham was a huge factor, with 21 catches for 288 yards and 2 touchdowns. Los Angeles made a run through the NFC, eventually setting up a Super Bowl 56 clash with the Bengals. Beckham opened.
Yo, I won 150 on this game, bro. I bet on the fucking Rams, my nigga. I was like, bro, Beckham was getting his fucking ring this year. And it fucking happened, bro. I got money off this game.
The scoring with a 17-yard touchdown and was creating all kinds of problems for the Bengals defense. In the biggest game of his career, he was showing out. But once again, his body let him down.
Oh my God,
Beckham suffered another ACL tear in the second quarter of the game. He was on pace to win the Super Bowl MVP. It was as brutal as injury timing gets. Fortunately for OBJ, the Rams held on for a 23-20 win. He was a Super Bowl champ, but the cost of a ring was his own body. Following the Super Bowl win, Beckham took a year off to recover, then joined the Ravens for the 2023 season. While he was still a valuable contributor, it was clear that he was far removed from his days as an elite receiver. But we'll never forget the one-handed snags, the slants taken for touchdowns, and the many touchdown dances that inspired a generation. For more of the best NFL content on YouTube, stick with Blitz, and check out some of our other videos.
Hey, that shit was lit though. But that's it for that one, y'all. I'll hit y'all niggas up later.